MP and Opposition Senator Terence Dialsing. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Good morning.
Now, the announcement was made on Sunday night, 8:30 p.m. State of emergency has been declared. Dr. Browne, your initial thoughts on what was stated, the rationale behind the decision. The AG said that there's a looming threat and that a great disaster has been averted.
Well, it's good to be here. I want to say that the government cannot get its story straight on this issue at all. There's so many mixed messages, and that's always a bad sign. It tells you that maybe the truth is not being told. Right from the get-go, from the time the Prime Minister read, and she's continuing to read every day, these scripted messages, from the time she read that message announcing a limited state of emergency, even before the President had the opportunity to sign, some people realized there was something up. A presentation was made to the National Security Council, and the government has seized on an opportunity, a massive PR job, where they can clamp down on trade union unrest and fears of a labor crisis that they could not control otherwise, and at the same time take advantage of the fears of the good citizens of this country and mount small-scale exercises, netting and harvesting young men from on the blocks across the East-West corridor, while leaving the big players, the big fish, untouched. The day I see those trucks pulling up in West Moorings and Lange Park and Valsayn and other places like that, that's when we be convinced that there was need for a state of emergency. The activities we are seeing now could have all taken place a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago. Nothing has changed with regard to the government's capacity in that regard.
But Mr. Browne, I spoke to the Attorney General and I asked him that question about going after what perceived to be the small elements in the criminal trade, and he's saying that you are judging this exercise way too early, that they have strengthened the financial legislation, but they have to put a quell on the ground activity first. Are you satisfied with that response?
Not at all. Not at all. Look at the anti-gang law that they're talking about now. That was finalized in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago in May, on the 16th of May. Do you know when it was proclaimed and put into operation? On the 16th of August. 2011. Does that tell you that the government is moving in an emergency mode to deal with gangs and to deal with the crime situation? Not at all. They can't get their story straight on this matter. They're saying that this, remember Minister Rambachan said, we have not pulled this out of a hat. This is something that has been carefully planned. But yet, the Commissioner of Police was allowed to proceed, approved to proceed on his observer mission to South America, to Brazil, yet Deputy Commissioner Iwatsky was allowed to proceed on leave. He was not recalled from leave, which is normal, yet Deputy Commissioner Williams was not appointed until the 23rd of August, and worst of all, a really awful sign is that this week a large contingent of police officers have been departing for, guess what, the World Police Games in New York. During this week, during a state of emergency. So during Carnival, police social and sporting activities tend to be cancelled, leave is withdrawn, etc. These folks are leaving for the World Police Games. Does that tell you that the government is serious, or does that tell you that something a lot more sinister is taking place? I don't think we can trust them at all.
Is it a reserve group or is it actual police? But before I get the response to that, let's bring Mr. Dialsing into the conversation. Mr. Dialsing, major story, the Anti-Gang Act. For the first time, no bail for 32 gangsters. The government is saying that they have made a dent in the situation and that they're going after well-known gang leaders.
The anti-gang legislation is working as the way it should be working, but the question the Honorable Prime Minister needs to answer is that why do you need a state of emergency to enforce the Anti-Gang Act? You do not need to have a state of emergency to arrest suspected gang members under the anti-gang legislation. Those arrests along Nelson Street, the East-West corridor, could have been done without a state of emergency. And that's the point the Prime Minister is not addressing. Why do you need to inconvenience a whole country, stifle economic activity, to harass young boys under the anti-gang legislation.
Now, Dr. Browne, the Attorney General has stated that there was an imminent threat that mass bloodshed was averted, and that they had reason to believe at the national security level that they had to go this route.
You know what? I don't believe him. He has very little credibility in Trinidad and Tobago, a highly political Attorney General. I wouldn't go through his history in the year and a half so far, but it's not a proud record at all. And are we just expected to sit back, allow the government to withdraw the constitutional rights of every single citizen of this country while they claim some mysterious threat? If there was this imminent threat, if you look at the president's proclamation, you'd recognize they're all pointing to August 16th, when the seizure occurred and there was imminent danger of mass bloodshed. Then why was Gibbs approved after that? Why was Iwatsky's leave not withdrawn? Something is not adding up.
Now, the government is saying that they have been able to do what the PNM has been unable to do, that this problem is not something that occurred overnight. The war against the criminal elements has been allowed to prosper under the PNM administration, and that they have done what the PNM was unable to do. Dr. Browne, you were part of the government.
Yes, I was the youngest member of that cabinet. But what have they done? What they've done is presented a headline. That's it so far. State of emergency. If you are dealing with organized crime and violence in a country, you look to address the head, not the tips of the fingers, not the guppies, as I saw someone refer to them as. And my question to the Attorney General is, what steps have they taken and proven and demonstrated in terms of commitment to dealing with the head? Have they secured maritime assets to defend our borders? They did the opposite. Have they established, they promised to legalize, that's their term, legalize the Special Anti-Crime Unit, which was an elite unit that required polygraph testing, etc., to treat with some of the issues. You know what they did instead? They disbanded SOE. Many of the decisions, a key one is the removal of those police posts in urban areas around Port of Spain. Now, those same areas in which the police posts were removed are now facing conditions under which the residents do not have their constitutional rights, and the police are moving in claiming there's a public emergency in Trinidad and Tobago. That as well does not add up.
Mr. Diasing, the government has claimed that these special units have been used as political toys, that the Special Anti-Crime Unit was used to spy on government and then opposition MPs and people perceived to be anti-government.